These are the jobs you may not see every day, but just know we're working hard to make Hillsborough County a better place to live, work, and play. Subscribe to our YouTube page for more great county-related videos, only on HTV.
Good morning. Welcome to the July 22nd, 2025 regularly scheduled land use meeting of the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Would everyone please rise for the pledge and invocation given by our chaplain, Commissioner Gwen Myers.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, Heavenly Father, I come to you saying thank you for another day. I also say thank you for all of the applicants who are here this morning to present their case to us. Father, I ask a special blessing for this board and our staff, that as we make decisions today, it will be pleasing in your name. This I ask in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. Mr. Grady, want to review any changes to the agenda?
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Grady, Hillsborough County Development Services. In addition to the withdrawals, continuance, and remands on page 3 of the agenda, we do have the following changes to the agenda. On page 4, item B2, major mod application 25-0243, existing condition 1 is being modified to prohibit the following additional uses: synagogues, seats over 300 seats, general indoor outdoor recreational uses, and membership organizations. For item 2, on page 10, item FE3, PRS 25-0426, additional party records have been added to backup. Next changes on page 12 of the agenda, item E6, PRS 25-0672, revisions to the agenda that reflect the Development Services recommendation of approval subject to proposed conditions. On page 12, the next change is item E7, PRS 25-0759. Revisions of the agenda that again reflect Development Services recommendation of approval, subject to proposed conditions. Next changes on page 13, the agenda item F1, major mod application 24-1152. We are removing condition 16, which is repeated in an incomplete duplicative condition of condition 17. Next changes on page 16 of the agenda item F6, major mod application 25-0479. Existing conditions 5 and 7 are being modified and are removed to remove buffering and screening not required by the Land Development Code. And proposed condition 7 is being modified to clarify to require lighting within the project is to be consistent with the Land Development Code to better reflect operational characteristics of the use. We also have one additional change we received after the publishing of the addendum. The applicant for agenda item E2, PRS 25-0315 is requesting a continuance of his application at the September 9th BOCC land use meeting. That's all changes and addendums to the agenda.
All right, can we have a motion to approve the
Move for
changes?
approval. Second.
Motion, Commissioner Miller, second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on the changes to the agenda.
I'm a yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, before voting on the consent agenda, it's required that the board open an opportunity for public comment on B4 and B12. Would anyone like to speak to either one of these items? If not, can we have a motion on the consent?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on the consent agenda.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, this time, if you're here for a B application, your item's been approved. Anyone today planning on testifying, if you would please stand, raise your right hand so the clerk can swear you in.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay, this time we'll go to the vacating public hearing portion of the agenda. Mr. Grady.
Commissioners, the first item is agenda item C1, vacate petition 24-0003. Facilities Management and Real Estate Services Department will present this item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Victoria Rosenbecker with Facilities Management and Real Estate Services Department. Item C1 today is vacate ID V24-0003. This is a petition by Jeanette Hernandez to vacate a portion of improved platted public right-of-way known as Sterling Road, which consists of approximately 4,642 square feet. The proposed vacate area was dedicated through the plat of Sterling Heights as recorded in Plat Book 32, page 31, and is generally located north of East Fowler Avenue and west of US Highway 301 in Thenota, Sassa. The petitioner has submitted this request to connect the two non-contiguous portions of her property that are currently bisected by the subject vacate area. Reviewing departments, agencies, and utility providers have raised no objections to this request. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak to C1? If not, can we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Myers, second, Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote on C1.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, C2.
Thank you.
The next item is C2, vacate petition 24-0017.
Hello again. Victoria Rosenbecker with Real Estate Services. Item C2 today is vacate ID V24-0017. This is a petition by Tampa 92 LLC to vacate the entirety of the plat of Watkins Estates as recorded in Plat Book 117, page 120, and return it to acreage. The proposed vacate area consists of approximately 14.24 acres and is generally located north of US Highway 92, south of Interstate 4, and east of Gallagher Road in East Rural Hillsborough County. The petitioners have submitted this request in order to comply with a condition of approval for RZPD 23-0780, which allows the existing RV dealership to expand their service center and employee parking, as well as their RV display, staging, and inventory areas. Reviewing departments, agencies, and utility providers have raised no objections to this request. Thank you so much for your consideration, and I can answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Again, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak to C2? Now, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
I do have a Mr. Flowers online. Can you hear us, sir?
Yes,
Hello, Mr. Flowers. Do you need to speak?
I just wanted to let you know I'm representing the applicant, and we're in agreement with the staff report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, sir.
Second.
Got a motion to approve. Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on C2.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, now on the public hearing agenda, Mr. Grady, you want to introduce the first E item?
Commissioners, we have one more vacate
Oh,
item.
I'm sorry.
Agenda item C3, vacation petition 25-0007.
Victoria Rosenbecker with Real Estate Services for the record. Item C3 today is vacate ID V25-0007. This is a petition by Relexis Antuna Lorette de Mola and Nemez Dalis Mestre Solis to vacate a public platted utility easement located at 6214 Frost Drive in Greater Carrollwood, Northdale, and consisting of approximately 680 square feet. The proposed vacate area was dedicated through the plat of Henderson Road Subdivision, Unit Number 2, as recorded in Plat Book 46, page 79, and is generally located west of Anderson Road and north of West Linebaugh. The petitioners have submitted this request to resolve a code enforcement case related to the construction of an unpermitted gazebo, which encroaches into the utility easement. Approval of this petition will allow the petitioners to obtain the necessary permit to bring their property into compliance with the Land Development Code. Reviewing departments, agencies, and utility providers have raised no objections to the request. Thank you so much for your consideration, and I can answer any questions.
All right, thank you. This public hearing, would anyone like to speak to C3? Please come down, sir. Good morning.
Morning, everyone. My name is Relexis Antuna, and I'm the property of the subject property. The reason I'm doing this petition is to cure that violation, and so I can finish, the gazebo style building. As Janet, previous comment, we got all utility companies around, and they said they had no objections on it. I got a list of a lot of my neighbors that they didn't have any objections on the petition as well. And if you got any question, please, I'm here to answer.
All right, thank you, sir, for coming down this morning. Can we have a motion on
Move
C3?
approval.
Motion, Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Miller. Please record your vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Grady.
The next item is agenda item E1, PRS application 25-0236. This is a request for a minor modification to a 9.7 acre parcel that's on the east side of Boy Scout Road in the Keystone Odessa area. It's a PD that's currently approved for a public stable, single-family dwelling and accessory dwelling. This request is associated with the accessory dwelling. The request is to modify the size of the accessory dwelling, decrease it from 700 to 900 square feet, and also to modify the location of it. Staff is recommending approval when we're available for any questions.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here?
Good morning, David Wright with TSP Companies. I agree with everything in the staff report. I'm just here to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of the item? Anyone in opposition? All right, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Myers on E1. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, next item.
As noted in the changes, E2 is continued, so the next item is item E3, Pierce application 25-0426. This is a request for a minor modification to a 14.25 acre parcel that's located within the Mirror Bay development, which is located on the west side of US 41. The request is to modify development standards. The parcel is currently platted for single-family attached product. The request is to modify the development standards in order to do a single-family, it's currently approved for a single-family attached product and platted as such. The request is to modify development standards in order to accommodate a specific single-family detached development product on the site under the current plat. Staff has reviewed this and is recommending approval and will be available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Michael Brooks, 400 North Tampa Street, Suite 1910, here, Tampa 33602. I'm going to go through a short PowerPoint presentation. If you would indulge me this morning. Are we up? All right. I'm going to start with, before I tell you what the request is, I want to start with some background because as you can see, there are some folks from the Mirror Bay community here in the room. My client, Stanley Martin Holmes and Rick Harcrow are here in the room. He has been meeting with various people in the community for months now. I've been out there for several of those meetings. And so because this is such an aged project, I want to give you a little bit of background. So the project, this is just kind of an aerial overview. The project, as I said, is in Mirror Bay Plan Development. It was approved back in the late 1990s. It's on the north side of Mirror Bay Boulevard, just past the gatehouse, if you've been into the project. Overall, Compass Point, the parcels we're talking about, consists of 95 platted lots. That was platted in 2006 for townhomes. In around 2007, the first 11 townhomes were completed within that platted subdivision, after which we all know what happened in the market conditions, and so time froze. And it remains, the remaining units remain undeveloped. But as of today, all the horizontal improvements are in. You go out there, the roads are in, the sewer's in, the water's in. Site has been graded. It is ready for vertical development. A little bit of background. So this is Mr. Grady just showed this map, but this highlighted shows what's called the town center portion of the master plan development. Town center was intended, in fact, Mr. Harcrow worked for Terrebrook at the time, and it was intended for development of a more intense urban mixed-use development pattern. Wide range of uses are allowed: office, retail, multifamily, and single-family type development. Within the project, there are two development scenarios by which uses can be developed. The first is conventional. There are Euclidean standards for office, for commercial, and some residential. The larger lot, traditional, conventional, residential that you mostly find closer to the water. There was also created in this PDA a Florida traditional design option, which the standards are governed by a table that is on the site plan. Now, I've got an excerpt of it up on your screen. I will tell you, after 20-some years of being copied, it is there are less legible versions than others, but it provides what essentially are neo-traditional type coastal development standards. That was the concept. The conditions also provide that upon construction of a residential unit under one of these scenarios, it sets a precedent for that parcel, and only that type of development can occur on the remainder. And so Compass Point has been permitted, and it has been fully developed horizontally as an FTD community. So that's what I mean by when I say FTD. So what are the design elements of the town center? Well, there's a specific condition that's been in place for since the beginning. What you're looking at here is an excerpt from the Phase 2 plans, which are currently for townhomes. Stanley Martin now owns all of these lots. So this was done by a prior owner. But you can still see and get a feel for the design elements: interconnected sidewalks, pedestrian amenities, on-street parking. And I want to be clear about on-street parking here because there's some confusion. What we're talking about here are designated on-street parking spaces that you pull off of the right-of-way and you park in a designated space. There are within the community roughly 40 of those spaces that are in addition to the two-car garages that Stanley Martin will be proposing. To the greatest extent possible, additional parking is located in the rear of the structure, so we're going to be talking about all rear-loaded product, again, kind of consistent with what you would find in a neo-traditional type development pattern. All right, so the request. Stanley Martin has acquired all of the remaining 84 platted lots, and highlighted in yellow are the lots that have been mentioned at the beginning. 11 townhomes have been developed. Those are on the yellow areas. And Stanley Martin desires to, on those existing platted lots and within that existing development pattern, to construct single-family detached homes in lieu of the originally intended townhomes. The reason we're here today is there are no current FTD standards that apply to about half of the lots, and that's either because the lot widths vary and they fall below the 40-foot standard, or maybe they don't have the same, they don't meet the total lot square footage that's, again, in the table. And so what we are proposing, and Mr. Grady said, is to propose development standards that will be specific to these lots only, and will allow for a single-family product that Stanley Martin has designed to fit on those lots. And I will get to those. This is just to give you an idea of kind of the immediate context. As I said, Compass Point was permitted as an FTD community. The remainder must be. But this is a development pattern or a type of development that is consistent with the subdivision to the south, which is Anchor Cove, and immediately to the east, which is Seacrest. Again, each of those have been built with FTD standards and are within the town center. I want to take a moment to just reiterate right here, this PRS will not result in an increase in the number of units in Compass Point or in the Mirror Bay project above and beyond what's already approved. It will not increase the overall density. For comparison, this is, again, on the right-hand corner is an excerpt from the Phase 1 construction plans. This is an example of what has been planned for this site. This particular example was a 3-unit townhome building that was proposed as a model. This had permits in 2022 that I think maybe have since expired. But it is a single monolithic building. They're constructed without, internal side yard setbacks, and so they present a lot more visual mass, and they provide a lot less green space as a result. Roughly 25% of, and again, the graphic I'm showing is in the left-hand corner is the Phase 2 plan, and the bottom is the Phase 1 plan. But roughly 25% of the townhome units that are planned are larger than the 3-unit building. They're 4- and 5-unit buildings. And in fact, the 5-unit building is about 70 yards long. For all of them are more than half of a football field long in terms of visual massing. This is an example of Stanley Martin's model home elevation. This one is called the Vaughn. It has the architectural aesthetics of what I was explaining to you is kind of a coastal, neo-traditional type community. While these are different variations in elevations that you see in a row, this is a good representation of what you would see standing at this street looking at 3 units versus the 3-unit building, townhome building that I showed you just a moment ago. So you'd have visual space in between the buildings in particular. That would be 10 feet, side yard setbacks for fire code versions. This plan, this model plan, together with about 5 others, have been approved by the Mirror Bay Architectural Review Committee, which is a part of the Mirror Bay Homeowners Association. I won't read all of these, but you have findings of compatibility and consistency within the staff report relative to the future land use element, community design component, environmental considerations, and neighborhood. Again, I'm just going to close by saying we believe that this would be a less dense development, not in terms of number of units, but in terms of visual massing, i.e. the townhomes versus the single-family detached. There are additional conditions that address concerns about vehicle movements in the rear alleys, slightly wider alley pavements. Like I said, this will be a 2-car garage product, so you won't have any parking outside of the home. There were no objections from the reviewing agencies or from development services, although I do know that there are a number of people here who do want to speak. I will say that before we really got off the ground with this application and were able to start having community meetings, there was an email that was circulated which generated 40 to 50 pieces of correspondence, many of which are similar, many of which ended up in your inboxes, which we believe were sent before the neighborhood and community really fully understood what we were doing. One of the things that we have heard consistently and loudly is that townhome product over the years has been proposed for a build-to-rent product. Stanley Martin is not doing a build-to-rent product here. This will be single-family detached, fee simple ownership, and so with that, I'll allow the other folks to come up. But if you have any questions at the moment, I'd be glad to answer those.
All right, thank you. This time I have opportunity for proponent testimony. Anyone here in support of the application? All right, anyone in opposition? You have a total of 15 minutes. Good morning, sir.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Sang Lee. I'm a friend of Mr. Kim, who's a longtime resident and contributor to Mirror Bay. And he had some comments that he wanted to express to the board about this development. So, and we have 12 additional people from Mirror Bay representing as well. So.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Good morning. And I live in Mirror Bay. Today I come here, and I don't want a small house. And I got many development I working. I live 2000, I working Mirror Bay 25 years. Still I working. And the front interest over there, small house, not nice job, and the whole community killer. And the police bail on us way, and the proof I happy. And the rumor talked a lot of small house, a lot of, I don't want a junk house talked about, and not bail house put them in. I worry about it, Paul.
Yeah, Mr. Kim did not specifically mention just now, but one of the big concerns that he had from the previous developer was that this section was going to be a rental property owned by a single entity. I'm not sure that is part of the approval request or not, but what the community the community feels that making this section at the entrance, front entrance of the community, the first that you come to when you go through the gate, making that a rental property will be negative impact to the community. So we would like to request as a condition of approval that not a single entity or several entities that are going to be utilizing this development as a rental property.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah. And then one other thing that I know Mr. Kim talked to me a lot about that he's concerned about is that And then we have residents here from Compass Point as well as Seacrest, the adjacent properties. With this development, we want to make sure that there's not going to be an issue with the flooding, because as with single-family homes, I know the PD, and it's still going to be 84 units. However, single-family homes would take up more of the property space, and that there's not going to be an issue with grading or the water flow, and that it's going to cause flooding issues, which is, again, at the entrance of the community.
That's good, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, please, honest way, rise up, that's all. Fair.
Thank you, sir.
And the front interest messed up, a whole community messed up. I working 25 years, many development I working. I need a front, a nice fair building.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak to the item? Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Carl Kroll, and I really didn't prepare anything for today, but Mr. Kim said I need to get up here and say something, and so, but I really do want to say something also because it's a real concern of mine, and hopefully impress upon you that concern. And with these modifications that are happening in the community, and I live in actual Compass Point, a community within the Mirror Bay community. But Compass Point is actually where the building is going to be. And we've never had really flooding, we never had flooding issues since I've been there since 2010. And, but now, from what I understand, some adjacent neighborhoods, Seacrest for one, is seeing a little more water. But it's not that we're having flooding now, but we're to foresee what will come. And when I look at the communities around me in Apollo Beach, we see the flooding from just the last few hurricanes. It makes it a very big concern for me. When I look at the communities outside of our communities, the state, the country, whether it's nature or whether it's development, but I know that I do have coworkers and all that development has affected them greatly, rather. And now they can't do anything about it. You know, they just suffer the flooding. And so these modifications that's coming to this, to the plans, we really need to look at that as far as that drainage. That's my biggest concern. And the overcrowding and how they're going to split it up, too, is another big concern in how they're going about it. But I definitely don't want to be on the news with another flooded out house. And so that's my greatest concern. For my family, I'm about, a year, 2 years from retirement, something I don't want to deal with. And so thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else like to speak to the item? But if not, the applicant has an opportunity for remand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the additional time. We heard a couple different things from the speakers, but let me just say for the record, I deeply respect Mr. Kim, who said that he did not want a small house at the entryway. The issue here really is not about the small house. It's really versus the single-family detached versus the single-family attached product. And when you drive into Mirror Bay, as I pointed out from one of the earlier aerials, is that the Seacrest community that was mentioned to the east and the Anchor Cove community to the west, Anchor Cove in particular is right off of Mirror Bay Boulevard. Those are Florida traditional design communities. And so what you will see at Compass Point will be no different. Very similar to Anchor Cove as well, though, I want to point out, I think it's important that there are 2 landscape strips on Mirror Bay Boulevard that are maintained by the CDD, I believe. It's a very lovely landscape, no thanks to Mr. Kim, of course. But there's also a landscape tract within the platted boundaries of Compass Point. And so there will be an additional landscaping row that further creates visual separation from Mirror Bay Boulevard to the Compass Point development. There was a comment about flooding. In fact, there are most of the letters in your that were sent to you did raise flooding as a concern. And of course, the hurricanes of last season are not really a good metric. But I do understand, talking to the residents out there, that during the construction phase, there has been a lot of runoff as the site was not yet complete. The site has been complete. It is largely sodded, so some of the erosion should be lesser today, let's say, than it was 6 months ago. And it will be even further less once Stanley Martin comes in and starts developing the home sites, and there's some retaining walls and footers and types of things that will be developed. We believe that you'll have less flooding. But the overall Mirror Bay development is governed by a master swift mud permit, and each of the parcels within Mirror Bay has to be consistent with that. And so I think this is modification 58 thus far at SwiftMud. So each time you propose a different type of product, you have to come in and show that you're consistent with that original master drainage plan that is managed by the CDD in this particular project. And so there will not be any additional runoff from this project from what was originally intended for the Mirror Bay drainage system. I do have Jeremy Couch here, who is the project engineer, who can come up and elaborate on that if you have specific questions. Again, the SwiftMud permit and the existing master drainage system will not be altered by what Stanley Martin is doing.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Or Mr. Couch, you have a minute, 19 seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner. I've not been sworn.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Jeremy Couch, 17937 Hunting Bow Circle with Tampa Civil. I am the engineer. I have reviewed the existing master SwiftMud permit for Mirror Bay. This particular phase in question is revision 58, which was initially, this area was initially permitted under revision 4 and revision 9. So the history of this community, this pod, goes back a very long ways. The proposed single-family detached project will be less intensive than what the permit allows. So the permit allows a much greater intensity of coverage than what this parcel would propose. Some of the issues with erosion are because it has not been fully developed and stabilized. Once it gets going, those issues will be resolved.
All right,
thank you so much.
Okay, Adam, real quick, can you briefly touch on the flooding and the rental property issue?
Yes, sir. And I will echo what has been said by the applicant team. There is a stormwater plan designed for this site as part of the master stormwater plan. It has had construction plans already reviewed and approved for that extent. We will review that with this change is approved to make sure that there are no additional impacts. Agree with what was said, that this would be a lesser level of impact, but we'll review that to make sure that there is no exceedance of what's already been approved and permitted. Regarding the rental properties, that is something that we generally have not regulated. The idea of ownership and who's renting those properties has not been, again, not something that the county has regulated. That is, rental properties are typically done with unplatted lots, such as multifamily projects or unplatted townhomes. It's not to say that a platted lot can't be rented, but we don't have a mechanism to monitor the ownership and resident status of units that get platted. So I would suggest that that would not be something that we have taken on as a regulatory control as part of zoning conditions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bowles?
Adam, two questions. This was originally zoned in '98, it sounds like?
Yes.
And then we've, over the years, it's kind of faltered and wavered, and Great Recession, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
The infrastructure, was that placed with, I'm assuming that the standards for stormwater have changed since that time. So was the infrastructure that's in place now, if I'm looking at a Google map of it, you can see there's streets and that kind of, was that an older standard, or is that kind of today's standards? Because we know that when we're building homes today, that we're changing, how we look at, we're raising up a little higher, the drainage is a little different, the piping's a little different probably. Sure. Is that older or newer, do you know?
So this was, the project was platted in the early 2000s, and construction plans would have been reviewed at that time. That is for the infrastructure on the ground. Our stormwater standards still have not changed in terms of the level of storm that we're planning for, so that element would not have changed. Again, we will, if this is approved, make sure that the development is consistent with that. In terms of structures in flood zones or low-lying areas, any structure built will be required to meet the minimum elevation to be at least a foot over the base flood elevation. So in terms of flood protection for those structures, the current standards will apply, and those get applied when the actual structure itself is permitted, as opposed to the infrastructure. So,
and I have one other question. The civil engineer, the gentleman that was up, and you can come up with, he can maybe augment maybe anything you might say. My question will be for him, but you may just hang out there for a second. So he mentioned covered area. So we're looking at, I think Mr. Brooks talked about 71 yards of building space. So we're talking about are you talking about impervious?
Yes, sir.
Ground. Okay, so
Jeremy
you're talking about covered. So we're talking about, at least when you're saying then when it's broken up, that there's other little spaces in between that allows for drainage of other waters and all that, as opposed to just a big warehouse size townhome or apartment, however you want to call it, being placed there. There's smaller.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to make sure that when you said covered, that's what you meant, like impervious areas that we're talking about.
Coverage of impervious area, yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. Appreciate it. That's it.
Commissioner Wilson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As it was just said, this was approved in 1998. I was 14 years old, and I know a lot's changed since 1998, but we've dealt with this issue a lot where there's old ones. So I'll just ask for clarity and confirmation that, is there anything legally that we could do, even if we wanted to unwind this project?
No, sir.
And I just wanted to make that point to you, that because it's already been entitled, all that we could say no today. They might find legal justification to argue against it, but either way, we can't undo the large attached housing that's already there, which, if the argument is flooding, I mean, the surface area coverage of these large 50 to 70 yard long townhomes would be far more significant than a lot of the single family that's going on there. And I'll just ask for clarity more. Can we control the style of home that they've decided to build on this lot? Can we regulate and dictate, since the complaint is the style of the home?
As to rental or ownership?
No, I mean like how it looks or the size.
So there is a preemption in state law from regulating 1- and 2-family homes and the design and design elements of this house. So that is something that it's previously been something that's been a tool, but is not currently based on state law preemption currently.
I just wanted to make those points, that a lot of this stuff is completely preempted. And the reality is that we've dealt with a lot of these sour apples that we've been delivered that are decades old before literally even the chair wasn't on the board when this was approved, and that's saying something. And it's just something that we deal with. And for me, I've voted against like over 10,000 multifamily units in just only the past 2.5 years since I've been here, because I don't believe in all that density way down south. But the reality is that this is a reduction in density from what currently exists down into these single-family detached. I'm happy to hear the applicant make clear that this is, and I'll just have him reaffirm that this is not a rental property. That's not me asking you. That's something that you just said, and I just wanted to reconfirm that to the community that's behind you.
Thank you, Mr. Wassel. For the record, Michael Brooks. This is not planned for a rental community. That's exactly correct, Mr. Wassel.
Okay, so, I mean, I just have to deal with the best cards that I've been dealt, and a reduction, go ahead.
If I could add one more thing, the point you were making before, while the county does not regulate style, Mirror Bay, which has a very sophisticated CDD, Master Homeowner Association, with an architectural review committee. And so Mr. Arcro has been
The
through all
point
that.
was that I can't make you build 5,000 square foot homes. So because it is a reduction in density, and I can't really control all of the other concerns, it's a small win for the community to not have these large attached townhomes right in the entrance to your community. So I hope that that's at least a consolation. Thank you.
Commissioner Miller?
Thank you, Chair. My comments are along the same. I think that we need to make it clear to the community that we don't have a whole lot of say in this. This was done long before we were here, and as my fellow colleague here very clearly articulated, this is, in my opinion as well, a better option. It's going to have less density, less ground coverage. We don't have the authority to stop something that was approved long ago. If we say no today, they can build the first version that he showed in that presentation, which is a higher density and more people and less ground coverage. So I just want you to know that land use is a very complex issue. I've been buried in it, I guess now for however many months at this point, and these are the ones that are hard for us because we have no choice. And I know you love your community. It's absolutely beautiful. It's one of my favorites in the district. And so I understand your concern, but in this case, I will be supporting the request at hand.
Hey, Commissioner Cohen, then we need to vote.
Very briefly, I agree with everything that's been said, and I just want to add that on balance, listening to the objections, this is actually better to meet the objections than what is there now. What is there now would actually be more likely to lead to the things that have been expressed concern about, and particularly the look and massing of enormous buildings at the entrance of the subdivision. So I'm going to go ahead and move approval at this time.
Okay, motion to approve, Commissioner Cohen. Second, Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote on E3.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. E4.
Next item is agenda item E4 is PRS application 25-0570. This is a request for a minor modification of a PD that's approximately 16.9 acres on the east side of North 78th Street, south of the intersection of North 78th Street and Sly Avenue. The request is to modify the design concerning road intersection improvements, unit numbers, and locations of sidewalks, stormwater, and unit types. Staff has reviewed this and is recommending approval and available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Is the applicant here for E4? Please come forward. You're up.
Well, I'm going to place that same map down there. We are residents of 78th Street.
Commissioner, I think perhaps you're not, ma'am, are you the applicant for this
No,
request?
we're the residents.
Okay. Is the applicant here for E4? Good morning, sir.
Hello, good morning. Tim Healy, Frontier Engineering, 803 North Howard Avenue, Tampa 33606. Yeah, wait. Which project?
E4.
E4? Okay, yep, E4. I didn't see that on the screen there. So basically, what we had before originally on the PD was 95 units, 40 single-family homes, 55 conventional detached homes, and now we have 38. We're proposing 38 conventional homes, and we're proposing 51 conventionally attached units there. So we were basically proposing here this project. A little backstory here is we had been approved with the PD, and we had done engineering, site plan development, and in the course of that progress, we had come into kind of a conflict here with Sly Avenue. Sly Avenue was, we were supposed to put a left turn lane as part of the condition of Sly Avenue. And geometrically, Sly Avenue with the curve and the right-of-way width could not support that left turn lane. We then tried to, the owner who was present in the crowd here, we tried to buy out a property owner that was adjacent to Sly Avenue to get this to work. The owner would not sell that property. We then tried to request and implore the county to eminent domain the stretch of Sly Avenue so we could get that site distance to work. In my education of this, you cannot do that with the private development. The county will not eminent domain a private development. We went through many steps to rectify this. The owner then put the project on hold. We tried to reevaluate the situation. We tried everything. We looked into, we implored the consultant to do the traffic design to relook at this project to see if it could work, to see if the site distance, we did everything. Didn't happen. So we kind of put the project on hold. You can see the date of the project here. Then we, as the future things change, things around us changed, and we hired Michael Yates, transportation consultant, to reevaluate the situation of the left turn lane. Michael Yates then did a distribution study. He reevaluated that, and he came up with that we could eliminate the left turn lane condition of the original PD with the elimination of 2 units. Now, a little backstory, we came in with 95 units originally. Because of the drainage requirements, the wetland requirements, the cattle vat requirements, which was we had an existing cattle vat, we came into site plan development and review we were down to 91 units because we had to succumb to a couple units to the Hillsborough County requirements. Mike took the latest site plan, he reevaluated that with the transportation distribution study, and he came up with that if we could eliminate 2 attached units, then we could we could get by the, we would not require the warrant for left turn lane on Sly. So he did that. He corresponded with Shada and Mike Williams. They reviewed the study. He did, like I said, he did a new distribution study, and that was approved by Transportation Planning. That was the only thing stopping us from getting site plan approval. I just want to say that because if you look at the date of the approval and the date we are here now, there's kind of a time lapse here. So the current conditions of the neighborhoods and Mike Yates's current study, which evaluated this, we could reduce the units by 2 units to 89 units. We started out with 95. So we're down 6 units. That would preclude us from putting a left turn lane in. Is a mitigation, Transportation Department said, okay, we will have you put a sidewalk in the whole length of your property and all the way up to Sly Avenue with drainage improvements as needed. So we put that into the submittal there, and we have redesigned that. So we are down to 89 units. I know we had a maximum of 95. So basically, we've done what we had to do to comply with that. And it's been a stretch, and I would respectfully request approval from council, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone here in support of the application? Or anyone in opposition? All right, please come forward. Thank you, sir. You can sit down.
Okay.
Figure out how to use the Elmo.
And please state your name for the record also.
Robin Rodriguez, 6802 North 78th Street, resident and owner of 19 years.
Oh, hi. So I'm Robin Rodriguez, 6802 North 78th Street. My husband and I have been there for 19 years, and we care for my disabled wheelchair-dependent brother-in-law. We are the 5th home on the west side, and Elm Street dumps out directly onto my property. The discussion we're having today is not only just about Eastern Oaks subdivision at 6505 North 78th Street, which is the red outlined area of 89 units, but also Eastern Oaks North, outlined in blue directly above there, that was approved 2024 for 71 units. We're talking 160 dwellings that will dump out onto our tiny little narrow dead-end single dwelling road, effectively making us their driveway. The Elm Street people will directly come into my house, then they have to make a right or hit my house to get to 78th Street. Now, running parallel, moving west to our street, 78th Street, they already leveled the woods, put Adelaire Estates in, put 32 homes in. If you continue to go west, there's Oakdale Dead End, there's the K through 12 elementary to K to 12 elementary friendship school. Then, right there at Orient Road, you've got your Magnet TBT, Tampa Bay Technical High School, with their robust athletic program, which brings in a lot of people from around the county, and then we have the mosque. Up and down our street, we have children going to the school bus, which is at Sly and 78th Street. We also have people walking to prayer. This is a big concern. Public safety is huge here. So we're actually talking 160 units that will be dumping onto our little piece of 78th Street. 71 already approved. We can't do a thing about that. And now we're talking 89, and we don't even know what the impact will be yet. My father, Jay Muffley, also wrote a quick letter of concern that he wanted me to point out on our behalf. He said, traffic and public safety. He said, 2024, you approved RZPD 240124 located at 7819 East Elm Street, which dead ends at North 78th Street in front of my daughter's yard. We are concerned about traffic and safety getting in and out and onto Sly. It's a dangerous intersection with the jog at Sly and the speeding cars. You have to be very careful. Now, I will also reiterate that there are certain times of day you cannot make a left-hand turn out of 78th Street because of the schools, because of the events. It backs all the way up to 301. Also, just east of our road, there's a new heating and air conditioning company which has a minimum of 15 trucks running up and down Sly now. In addition to, we have Mac Papers and other truck throughways. They've told us in the past we cannot slow down traffic because we have to allow the trucks to go up and down Sly. So we can't put speed humps in. We have no traffic regulation, no flashing lights, nothing warning anybody of children. We have people coming through that jog down the center lane into oncoming traffic. We've had accidents and we've had deaths, and we are very concerned.
Good morning. How are you? My name is Abram Miller. I live at 6803 North 78th Street. It's a single-family home. Actually, our entire neighborhood is single-family homes. And where they're trying to place these buildings or apartments, or I'm not sure if they're going to be rentals or single-family homes as well, but our street actually has no space to even for the capacity of what they're trying to dump onto our streets. If I can, hold on, let me see if I can read. Okay, the thing.
Our street is barely wider than this space right here. We're just.
Right.
Our street is barely wider than this space right here, like maybe about 20 feet across.
And we started a petition, something when it read like, in our small, tight-knit community in Tampa, sense of peace and security has been cherished by residents for decades. Many of our neighbors, including elderly single women, have called this community home for 15 to 40 years, forming bonds and safeguarding the tranquility we all value. However, this cherished atmosphere is under threat with the proposed construction of 90 new dwellings, as far as we knew with them talking about the outlined red area. But now I find out that they own the adjacent 2 pieces of property as well. And I guess that they were denied access to make the access off of Sly Avenue, so they're trying to make it down our street. The introduction of such a significant number of new homes would inevitably lead to an influx of over 200 vehicles, drastically increasing traffic on our narrow, already congested street. This street actually, in the morning time, like Ms. Robin said, just to try to get out, it's totally a hazard as is because of the schools and the crossing guards. So in the mornings, the amount of traffic that's coming down that street already is totally more than the street can handle. This potential surge in traffic possesses a serious risk to the safety of our community, endangering not only the homes and vehicles, but also the well-being of our children. The quiet and safety that attract many of us to settle here could be irreversibly compromised. Our community thrives because of its small size, low traffic, dead-end street, aspects that make it suitable for safe environment for raising families, supporting our elderly members. This piece allows our children to play safely and our elderly to live without the stress of bustling environment. The construction project not only threatens the character of our neighborhood, but it also raises concerns about the adequacy of infrastructure to handle such a spike in population and vehicle numbers. Emergency services. Our last hurricane, Milton, we had a street laid across, a tree laid down across the street. No one could even leave home past the first 3 houses because of just that street, because that's the only entrance and exit for the entire neighborhood. So everybody had to actually come out and pull together to cut the tree down to remove it for everyone on the rest of on Elm Street and the rest of 78th Street to even be able to leave their homes. Emergency services find it difficult navigating through increased traffic, potentially delaying their response time during critical situations, as that one. We ask for your support in protecting the environment and security of our beloved community. It's crucial to maintain the essence of what makes our street special. Join us in opposing the construction project and preserving the integrity and safety of our community. There was a lot of other women, not just women, elderly people that wanted to make it today, but couldn't. Oh no, it's a struggle, and then to see, I'm not sure if it's an actual, but talk has been that they're actually trying to take 20 or 25 feet of the side of one side of on the east side of 78th, which would take the road all the way past halfway a lot of people's homes. And if you look at the reports as far as the amount of accidents that occur on that corner of 78th and Sly already because of the curve, it's crazy.
There is no traffic calming there at all. And I'd like to say, if we hadn't had enough gas in our chainsaws to remove that tree, we had gotten it halfway cleared of the road, emergency services would not have been able to make it through, because shortly after, just minutes after we got that half of the road cleared, there was a fire on Elm Street. And that fire truck would not have been able to get through to them if we, the residents, had not been able to start that process, because our emergency services throughout the city were already overwhelmed.
Anyone else? No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this time the applicant has an opportunity for rebuttal.
Council, I just want to affirm that the property to the north is not associated with the property to the south in any way, shape, or form. There's a different owner, a different group that controls that. So with that being said, with the original PD, we are reducing the residential units by 6 units. And that, I want to just affirm that. As far as the improvements, 78th Street, I did not state this, but as a condition of mitigation, 78th Street will have we will install 5-foot sidewalk from the south end of the property all the way to Sly Avenue for pedestrian access. That is part of the condition of the Transportation Department. That will include some drainage improvements, curbing, etc. But I value the citizens' concerns here, but we are not associated with the property to the north in any way, shape, or form. So with any questions, I can answer engineering or planning.
All right, thank you, sir. Commissioner Wilston?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Gormley, if you could clarify something for me, referencing page 19 out of 37 of the backup for the conditions of approval. It's requiring them to provide vehicular connections to a northern and southern PD, a southern PD that was done in 1980, and then the northern PD that was done last year. What are these PDs that they're referencing that requires these vehicular connections?
So, Commissioner, these are additional residential development permitted in the area. The purpose of the conditions is to not preclude connections between those two, between those developments. We do have code language that supports this, but the purpose of this is to, in the design of this subdivision, allow for connections to be made between those subdivisions, so we don't have necessarily the need to exit each individual project to get out to 78th Street.
So how big are these PDs approved for then? And are all of them, if this approves, does it pave the way and leave these 2 other PDs that we don't know the impacts of? Are they all going to be exiting onto this Elm Street because this project wasn't able to get onto Sly?
I don't
Hold on, sir.
believe that those projects would be taking access to Elm Street. We will, give us a minute. We will.
But they're being connected vehicularly to this lot, right?
To this project, yes.
And this project has access to Elm Street.
I think Elm Street is an existing road further to the north from this project.
So they're not getting Sly anymore. Where are they going to exit to?
This project is going to take access to 78th Street.
Okay, I'm confusing that point, not Elm Street.
Yeah.
So these two projects then, is their sole entry and exit also going to be 78th Street?
I believe one of the ones on the north has an access onto Sly Avenue already.
So they're only doing this because the project to the north hasn't been developed yet. So they're trying to, since they couldn't get access onto Sly themselves, this is what their alternative?
This project doesn't have any frontage on Sly Avenue.
Right.
The purpose of the conditions is to provide connections between these two PDs. So if the PD to the north develops, this PD would be able to make a vehicular connection through the one to the north and gain access to Sly without having to go on 78th Street.
But that's only if it develops.
Correct.
Could they have done something could they have reduced their density in some other capacity to eventually achieve access to Sly that they were originally unable to because of the left-hand turn? Could they have done something differently that would have helped them achieve that?
This project doesn't have and never had proposed access to Sly Avenue because it doesn't front on Sly.
So which one required the left turn lane that they were having issues with?
It was this project. It was a left turn lane from Sly, making a southbound movement onto 78th.
I see.
So that was the purpose of that was the left turn lane. It wasn't going out onto Sly. It was coming off of Sly to 78th.
So we're saying reduction of six lots is going to remove the need for an entire turn lane?
It takes it below the threshold needed for the turn lane. There's a threshold that once it's hit and it's a number of turns per peak hour, that generates the need for turn lane.
So we're saying we're removing that need for the turn lane now, knowing that we are requiring them to vehicularly connect another old PD to the south. That PD to the south is then potentially going to have access to go and create more impacts on Sly and require that turn lane. Or are they just going to keep missing the threshold and we're going to have just like an unmitigated disaster because we're connecting these three old PDs in a weird way? And so instead of them being looked at cumulatively, we're looking at them on these small individual lines that allow them to miss these impact requirements, and then we're left without a turn lane potentially?
So the request here, the reduction units, is to reduce the turn lane. I don't believe that the project to the south has that requirement. I don't have the numbers of what the turns would be for that.
They won't have the requirement because they're at some lower number to miss that threshold. You see what I'm saying?
I understand the question. I don't have that number of what those trips are to the PD to the south. But I just want to emphasize the purpose of the connection is to have other ways of not getting out on 78th. For those projects that have frontage on 78th, without any other connection, that would be their only way of getting access to and from the site. The purpose of the connections is to potentially have more than one way that would avoid 78th Street.
It's just this other PD's from 1980, though. I mean, there's just too many ifs for me on this one. I still have lots of questions and concerns. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Bowles?
I actually echo your concerns. So if I'm looking at the plan, that's page 5, you can see on the eastern boundary, it looks like there's a dead end to the north, and then on the eastern, southern, southeast corner, there's a dead end to the south. So those would be like the connectivity routes. And my thought was one of the opponents talking about how they were connected. I was thinking, well, why not just blow a road through that northern piece if they owned it? It's been made clear that they don't own it, or that this development doesn't own it. But would that, if we had to hypothetically speak, or think in the future, as Commissioner Whistle was saying, it's further to the south or further to the east, are they going to have to produce a left turn lane? Is that all about 89 versus 95 or 89 versus 90 or 91, 92, 93? And there is a cumulative effect. I mean, so at some point, and I know you're looking at it through the four corners that's before you, but if we look into the future, we got to think about how that southern properties, how are we going to address all that if it's always about if they're just dropping it below a threshold today? And I understand that, but then if those northern property and that southern property then starts to develop, and I'm looking on Google Earth and how large some of those could be, or actually I'm not Google Earth, looking on the Property Appraiser's website. I mean, there's huge potential to really clutter that up. And I don't want to put a stranglehold on anything that, they're trying to do. It's just that it seems that it's a weird circumstance that we're not able to somehow move some, I don't want to say eminent domain, but kind of make a right of way on that northern property to allow for maybe an exit, which would then maybe allow for a left turn lane. And I know that's kind of speculative, but in my brain, I'm thinking, well, it's going to happen at some point anyway. You're putting a road potentially on that eastern component when you look at page 5, and that would kind of put a road somewhere up in that northern block, that totally separate, different landowner. But is there a way to maybe, create a right of way that would then allow for a left turn lane, which would then allow for the other stuff that's going to happen at some point in the future? This is planning ahead, not planning for now. Again, I think we're reacting to something that's from 40 years ago, 45 years ago, 1980. Now we're trying to do that and, trying to squeeze everything into the, putting 10 gallons in a 5-gallon bucket, and trying to figure out how we can do that. So I think, I have concerns. And I've been down that road because I used to be on the fire department, so I get what you're saying. I've run many calls in that area, and there have been problems out there, run calls that have, resulted in on Sly Avenue. So I'm thinking about these things. That's just my hesitancy right now is lying there, and maybe there's a way to move forward. We can't do it right this second. Maybe there's some way to kind of think about it more globally. I yield. Thank you.
Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Yes, after listening to the, residents in the local community and hearing their concerns about traffic, it's already more than they can handle, and accidents that are already occurring and limited access, it would be very difficult to support this for me.
Okay, so what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Gormley, is there a way to, I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping in. Is there a way to kind of think about some of these outside of the box ideas? I'm not sure if that's possible, because I know we'd be encroaching upon another property owner and their rights as property owners, which, we're trying to stay away from that as much as possible. At least that's my feeling, that we should. But at the same time, if we're pushing the ability for this gentleman and who he represents to do what they want to do on their property. Yeah.
And Mr. Gormley, before you speak, along with that, in another way to I think ask the question: Is there any value in a continuance? Because we need to keep moving on this.
I was going to suggest that might be an appropriate step to take here and look at the comments that the board had made and look for ways to address this.
All right, so can we have a motion to continue?
So moved.
Motion,
Second.
Commissioner Wellstall, second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
The date will be
Motion carried 7-0.
August what?
August the 9th
Okay.
at 9 p.m.
Sir, if you have any questions, if you can
9
speak with
a.m., excuse
staff
me.
over here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, next item.
Next item is agenda item E5. This is PRS application 25-0585. The request is for a minor modification to a 27.1 acre PD. This is a parcel that's corner of North Forbes Road and Thenona-Sassa Road. What they're asking to do is currently the project has an approval for a amenity building and gathering space that's 3,700 square feet. They're asking to add 3,000 square feet to this building for non-public use area for adding kitchen and office and storage space for the facility. Staff is recommending approval and are available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning. My name is Colin Rice, the law firm of Older Lundy, 1000 West Cass. On behalf of Keel Farms, Mr. Clay Keel is here with us this morning. So I'll put some visuals up for you.
Commissioner, before, I'm sorry to
Yes.
interrupt, just to clarify, correction on the continuation date is August 12th.
August 12th. Okay, thank you. Please can. Please continue.
Okay. All right. Nope, all good. Thank you. All right. So today we're seeking your approval for the construction of an operations building on the Keel Farms property. I'll share some visuals with you, but as we go through this, I want us to keep two key points in mind. First is that no new uses are proposed for this site. And second is no portion of this operations building will be intended for patrons. Keel Farms obviously is an active farm. They've really embraced agritourism concepts. They feature a winery and tasting rooms and other features. So this request is strictly about modernizing and streamlining operations to ensure a more comfortable working environment for the wonderful Keel Farms employees. So more specifically, we're asking to amend the current PD zoning 140533 to allow for up to 3,000 square feet for this operation structure. It will house specifically office, storage, employee space, and kitchen facilities. Again, no space for the public. To orient you, we are in East Hillsborough County, near the Plant City boundary. And zooming in, you can see here is the tasting room, parking area, the existing retail sales structure along Thenota-Sassa and North Forbes Road. So here I'm showing you, I'll zoom in a little. Well, that's fine. I'm showing you here on the left is the existing 2014 site plan. And then on the right is the currently proposed site plan. I've shaded the operation structure here. It will be attached. Just to represent, that's the only physical change we're seeking for the structure here. We've had significant community outreach on this project, including a neighborhood meeting, which we held on May 28th. Good discussion. We had about 15 people in attendance, talked a lot about what is being requested, what isn't being requested. These notice letters can be a little confusing, so we thought that was an important and valuable step. We're proud to have 5 letters of support in the record. I've got copies that I'll include today as well with these slides. And we do have a couple of supporters with us today. We're proud to have earned staff support. We have no objection from any reviewing agency, and we are agreeable to all proposed conditions. So the Keel family, they're proud of this business, they're proud of their place in this community, and they're proud to be a significant employer. It's important to stay focused on this request, really for the benefit of the employees. It's hot out there. A lot of the operations have frequent time outside. There's no air conditioning. There's some distances involved. This will tighten up and air condition and make a much more comfortable environment for our valuable employees out there. So with that, I'll conclude. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll submit these slides and the support letters for the record. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone here in support of the item? Good morning.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Brittany Raymer. My husband is Jeremy Raymer. I'm surprised he's up here, so I'm proud of him. We are actually next door neighbors to, Keels Farm. Our house, I don't know that they just had a picture up, but we are sharing sort of the side of our house and the back of our house, but up to the corner of the winery. Clay, as earlier in the month or the month prior, we were able to get in a conversation with him to see where he's expanding. And for us, we are comfortable and we support the rezoning. I personally was in hospitality before, so I know a working, safe environment is the best environment to be in. So for us, we are for this improvement. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. All right, anyone in opposition? Okay, Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, sir. I just want to make one comment. For me, Mr. Keel is a longtime supporter of the Plant City Chamber and runs one of the most incredible businesses I've had the privilege to watch, and to watch you grow and to see this vision and to be a part on this side of you being able to provide this kitchen and workspace for your employees as your business has grown. And I'm guessing you're going to get rid of all the temporary stuff that's out there currently too, which I'm sure will make it aesthetically more pleasing for your neighbors as well. It is my privilege and honor to move for approval of this item.
Second.
All right, our motion approved, Commissioner Miller, second Commissioner Wostel. And I too want to echo Commissioner Miller's comments. It's a wonderful establishment. I've been there several times in the past, mainly just for the tasting center. However, I did attend an animal rescue event there several years ago. In fact, the board recognized Keel Farms with a proclamation. I don't know how many years ago it was. So in addition to all their ecotourism efforts, so they got a great establishment there. All right, so we got a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, next item.
Commissioners, next item is agenda item E6. This is PRS application 25-0672. This is a request for a minor modification to a 14.9 acre portion of a PD that's located on the north side of County Road 672, east of the intersection of Dupree Road and County Road 672. This is concerning parcel 2 within the PD. The request is to add the ability to provide for access points along the northern boundary for a maximum of 3 lots to allow for the eventual construction of access for those 3 lots to Dupree Road. Staff is recommending approval. I want to bell for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. The applicant here. Good morning.
Good morning. Bryce Pinson with Half Associates, here representing the applicant. So today, as Brian stated, we are requesting a minor modification to an existing PD. This is the parcel highlighted that's going to be affected by the change. It's in the rural service area. The existing future land use is agricultural rural with a residential 1 to the south, current zoning PD with AS1 and AR surrounding. So the existing approvals for 28 single-family homes developed with AS1 standards with 2 access points on Dupree Road and 2 access points on County Road 672 to the south. The request is to add an access point to the northeast of the property for a maximum of 3 lots. As you can see in the graphic on the bottom left, there is about a 30-foot wide strip that's connected to the parcel that's parcel 2 within the PD. So the access arrow would just allow a maximum of 3 lots to be able to use that to access Dupree Road. So there's no increase in the permitted density or change in uses, so no increase in trips. And that's it. I'm here if you have any questions.
All right, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Anyone here want to speak in support of the item? Anyone in opposition? All right, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion, Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on E6.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, next item.
Commissioners, next item is E7, Purist Application 25-0759. This is a request for a minor modification to a PD that's located on the east of Gate Dancer Road, south of Simmons Loop, and west of US 301. The request is to remove a requirement, 2 pedestrian trail option requirements. One option provides for a trail bridge crossing over Bullfrog Creek. The other option provides for an alternative trail along the northern boundary through a TICO easement that would connect to Gate Dancer. The purpose of those two trail connections is to address compliance with mixed-use policy provisions for mixed-use PDs, to provide for interconnectivity between the parcel that's listed as parcel 3 on the southwest corner of the parcel that's bifurcated by the rest of the property by Bullfrog Creek. When this is, the applicant has indicated in their request the reasons for asking for removal of that is basically environmental constraints regarding the difficulty constructing those connections, and their commitment to utilize a TICO easement after further analysis. With a TICO easement, the easement is prohibitive with being able to provide a trail connection through the TICO easement, and then therefore moving it south created also environmental constraints and also conflicts with connecting to Gate Dancer Road due to the location of the bridge for the Gate Dancer Road crossing that also crosses Bullfrog Creek. The applicant has noted that with respect to compliance with the mixed-use criteria, they do note that parcel 2, pursuant to one of the policy provisions regarding qualifying for 2 uses in the mixed-use plan category, does have continuous sidewalk connections to a use within a half mile of the property on the same side of the collector arterial, which is Gate Dancer, via sidewalk to and elementary schools to the south. And they feel that because of that provision and also the fact that the rest of the property is effectively providing for the interconnectivity, that all in all, they provide for that consistency with those mixed-use policies. Based on the fact that the construction of Gate Dancer and providing for that connectivity to the parcel of the south and the constraints with provision of those 2 access points, the staff is supportive of the request, and I would note that the Planning Commission did submit a comment and not in support of this request, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? Morning.
Good morning. Cami Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward, and Henderson. I'm going to have a brief presentation. It's a little bit repetitive, but it will provide you with some graphics to support what Brian just indicated. Subject property is located east of 75, south of Big Bend Road. This is the approved site plan. You'll see the interconnectivity access arrows provided here showing external access. There are 2 options in the current PD. There's an internal connection that crosses over Bullfrog Creek, and then recently, within the last year, some of this might look familiar to all of you, we added an option to provide an external connection option outside of the PD and back into the PD over Gate Dancer Road. We presented to you previous numbers about the internal connection, the pedestrian bridge. 2020 costs were $1.5 million. We updated those to 2025. That's a $2.9 million improvement to provide that internal connection. And then we presented evidence about the environmental infeasibility. Bullfrog Creek does dissect this site, and so it's not possible to provide that internal connection in a traditional way. And then further, as Brian indicated, as we looked into the TICO easement that is over the property that we own that we were going to connect through, it specifically stated that no improvements or structures could be constructed in that. We contacted TICO to ask them if their land use committee would consider a pedestrian connection, and they indicated that now that Amera has taken over, they're much more stringent on pedestrian connections and transmission corridors, and that they would not likely permit a connection there. So it's impractical to provide that external connection. And again, the blue circles represent the external connectivity and the yellow circles represent the internal connectivity. This is the connection. This is a little bit outdated or aerial, but it shows development of that pocket 3, and it shows that there will be connection to Gate Dancer and to that Belmont Elementary School to the south. Overall, we meet the objective of the mixed-use policies. And then, again, the goals and objective of the comprehensive plan shall be reasonably applied when they're economically and environmentally feasible and consistent with the protection of private property rights, and we would respectfully request your approval.
All right, thank you. Anyone here want to speak in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? All right, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second, Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote on E7.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, next item.
Next item is agenda item E8, PRS application 25-0795. This request is for a minor modification of 4.79 acre parcel. It's located on the east side of US 301, north of Martin Luther King Boulevard. The PD is approved for a mix of commercial intensive zoning district uses and a mini warehouse with open storage. The balance of this request is to modify the area that's approved for mini warehouse and open storage in parcel A to allow for warehousing, which is a permitted use in the PD, and also the requesting to modify buffering and screening associated with development in parcel A. Staff is recommending approval and available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The applicant here? Good morning, sir.
Morning, Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Dan Sorrow with Bill Short and Associates, representing the applicant. We've enjoyed working with your staff over the last few months on this PD amendment. We're in agreement with staff's recommendation of approval and the proposed conditions. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone like to speak in support? Please come down. Bless you. Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir. Commission. My name is Michael Ledbetter, for the record, and I represent the parcel at 3805 North US Highway 301 to the immediate south of this parcel. I'm here in favor of the people doing what they want with their property, with the exceptions of I would like to be involved, we would like to be involved with the conditions on page 10, numbers 18 through 23, because we can be significantly impacted by this development if it's not handled properly. I'm a former development consultant, and I'm a former county commissioner in another county, so I have some idea of what's going on. So I would appreciate staff being directed to include us in all further planning sessions related to this parcel.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Would anyone else want to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Okay, Commissioner Wostel?
Can we even require that?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I
was
don't.
going to ask Adam, but
Commissioner, it's not something that would be appropriate to require another private party to be involved with that.
Is the applicant interested in maybe at least extending a line of communication? I mean, all I'll do is just ask.
Yeah, definitely, Commissioner. I think that's something that's appropriate and that we would be willing to.
Okay, all right, I'll move for approval.
Second.
got a motion to approve. Commissioner Wostel, second, Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote on E8.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, the F items, Mr. Grady.
The first item in the F section is F1, major mod application 24-1152. This is a major modification of PD located at the northwest corner of Cypress Lane and US 41 in Lutz. Their modification is to create two development options for the project. Option one would include a parcel A, which is on the north, consisting of 46,375 square feet of office, and parcel B, which would be on the south, which would be 29,500 restricted retail uses. Option two would consist of, again, the 46,375 square feet of office on the north, and on the south, in parcel B, a split between 20,000 square feet of restricted retail and a 60,000 square feet mini warehouse facility. As part of this request, this is in the Lutz rural area and is subject to Lutz rural development standards. The applicant has requested relief from one of those requirements regarding the maximum building size of 20,000 square feet. I would note for the record, the applicant didn't submit a justification for that waiver into the record as part of this application, and did mention that at the hearing. I would also note for the record that the parcels not included in this application, which is the individual office buildings shown in the arrow in the red boxes, no entitlements were for those parcels are being affected as part of this modification, and that we had proper authorizations from all property owners necessary to accommodate this request have been provided to staff. Staff did recommend an approval. Planning Commission found it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, and the hearing officer, but the hearing officer did not recommend approval for the reasons outlined in the report. And we're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Will the applicant come forward? Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Tyler Hudson. My address is 400 North Ashley Drive. In light of the hour, I'm going to streamline this presentation a little bit. Brian did a great job, as usual, summarizing things. We are seeking to modify commercial entitlements for an existing property at Cypress Lane in US 41. Really want to get to the meat of this here. This was prepared for the ZHM. And that's about citizen support. Those of you who were here in October of 2022, which I believe was Commissioner Cohen-Myers and Chairman Hagan, recall a very controversial proposal here to put a gas station. The citizens of Lake Brant were pretty upset about that. And so my client, Flagship, who's here, Ron Roberts in particular, who's in the back of the room, he lives in Lutz. He doesn't want to get thrown out of his own neighborhood. And so starting with something that the neighbors liked was really sort of the North Star for this entire process, and all the credits due to them for working with the neighborhood. What we have before you isn't exactly what we filed, but it is something that the neighborhood supported, which we're very proud of. We are likely equally proud to have the support of staff, both DSD and the Planning Commission. Brian sort of stole my thunder on the zoning hearing master piece. This was something I anticipated being a consent agenda day, to be completely candid with you. We were very surprised by the hearing master's recommendation of denial, which really turned on two extremely technical points that we strongly disagree with. The first was that we didn't have the proper authorization. Dispute that strongly, and the county attorney's office and development services agrees with us. Second, the idea that we did not put justification into the record about the relief we're seeking from one Lutz community standard. I know that was in the record because the staff report cited it in recommending approval of our case. So we have as always, respectful but very strong disagreement with the zoning hearing master's conclusion here. One final change, a minor condition change we are seeking that I'm not sure if Brian mentioned it, is the original conditions of approval. This goes back to 2003, referenced the requirement for a, quote, tin roof. We would just like to use the word metal. Tin-plated iron hasn't been used a lot in the last 100 years, and so we respect the intent, but we think metal roof will avoid any hiccups in permitting. And happy to answer any questions if you have them, but would ask that you vote to approve this application. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Any proponent testimony? Any opponent testimony? Planning Commission?
Thank you. For the record, Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the neighborhood mixed use 4 future land use category. The site is in the rural area, and the subject property is located within the limits of the Lutz community plan. The future land use element permits new development within the rural area that is similar in character to the existing community. Future land use element policy 4.1 characterizes the rural area as low density, large lot residential. The subject site is currently vacant, and there is also vacant land to the north, west, and east of the subject site. The proposed major modification is compatible with the surrounding area and meets the intent of this objective. The proposal meets the intent of future land use element objective 16 and its accompanying policies that relate to compatibility. In this case, the surrounding land use pattern is a mix of uses, but comprised mostly of residential, vacant land, some light commercial and agricultural uses. The Lutz Community Plan desires to retain existing and encourage new commercial uses geared to serving the daily needs of the area residents in a scale and design that complements the character of the community. The proposed modification would complement the area that is comprised of a mix of uses and aligns with the character of the community and environment. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the proposed conditions by Development Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master reviewed the requested major modification to Plan Development Zoning 03348. The ZHM described the general area surrounding the subject property as consisting of residential, agricultural, and commercial uses. Adjacent properties include commercial properties and a residential single-family subdivision to the north, a forested area zoned ASC 1 to the west, a vehicle sales and repair business to the south along Cypress Lane, and agricultural and single-family residential uses to the east across North US Highway 41. The zoning hearing master noted that after the PD was originally approved, Parcel A was subdivided into 14 individual lots and a common area, developed into an office park with 14 office buildings on the subdivided lots. Parcel A consists of 15 separate folio parcels, including the common area and the 14 lots developed with individual office buildings. The ZHM stated that the common area parcel owner, Heritage Station Inc., is the applicant in this case. The owners of the 14 office building lots are not applicants in the case, and the parcel numbers of those owners are not listed in the application. The zoning hearing master opined in the recommendation that the owners of the individual building lots were required to authorize the application. This opinion served as a basis for the ZHM's recommendation of denial of the request. However, the Development Services Department, in conjunction with the county attorney's office, determined that the application was properly authorized because the entitlements held by the individual office building owners are not being changed with this modification. The zoning hearing master recommendation of denial was also based on the ZHM's conclusion that the request for a mini warehouse building exceeding 20,000 square feet is inconsistent with the Lutz Rural Development Standards of the code. The ZHM stated that the applicant did not provide adequate support for this request for a departure from the code. However, the Development Services Department found that the applicant had supported the request in its application, and the Development Services Department, as you heard, concluded that the request for departure from the code was approvable. The zoning hearing master's conclusion was with a recommendation of denial of the requested major modification.
Okay, Mr. Hudson did a great job of detailing the history of this parcel. I personally led the charge for denial of a gas station on this location, probably 15, 16 years apart from each other, based on the fact that it was an inappropriate use, and there was a significant amount of opposition both times, and the fact that the person that led the charge in opposition, Mr. Kapkovic, actually sent a letter in support, I think speaks volumes. This room would be filled if there was any opposition to this project, so I fully support it, and someone wants to make
I'll
a
move
motion.
approval.
Get a motion to approve Commissioner Wilstel, second Commissioner Bowles. Please record your vote on F1.
Motion carries 7-0. Commissioner
item.
Bowles, I will edit your vote.
Next item, Commissioners, is agenda item F2, rezoning PD 24-1202. The request to rezone a 2.97 acre parcel from AS1 to planned development. The request is to provide for the allowance for open storage and/or 21,000 square feet of warehousing uses. Access to the parcel will be provided to the south, as this is envisioned to be an extension of existing development. The property to the south, no access is being provided to Maple Lane to the north and east, and buffering screening is being provided along Maple Lane, including a wall along the east side of the property. Staff is recommending approval. Planning Commission found it consistent in the hearing, also recommended approval, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. As indicated, we have all approvals, so I'm going to do a very, very abbreviated presentation. And if there's anyone here, which I doubt them, we need to have further comment, I'll be happy to provide it. As indicated, there's two options: open storage of commercial vehicles and/or warehouse with an existing business. Business owner is here, Ms. Bratz is here. He's been in business in Hillsborough County for 10 years. This would be in conjunction to his current property, which is adjacent. We're in the East Lake Orient Park area. Off of 301, 32,000 vehicles per day. Site is zoned already for truck stop, logistics trucking. This would be the same type of use. Again, it would be adjacent to his current business, which is Lightning Transport. The only access would be out to 301, of course, not into the residential area. Zoning is intensive in the area already with CI and light industrial, CNU 12, future land use category, which is very intensive as well. We provided pretty extensive buffers beyond what code calls for, both on the north and east. And we had discussions with residents on the east to increase the buffer to provide for a wall, which I submitted in the record that they are supporting moving forward with that change, which we're happy to do. You can see, although, that there is significant forestation and screening, which would be many, many times above and beyond what code would call for, so we're keeping that there. And if the warehouse option is chosen, there's extreme setbacks as shown here. So the use proposed is quiet, low trips, low infrastructure, no access to residential streets, and all the staffs are in support, along with the ZHM. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Pressman. Any proponent testimony? Any opponent testimony? Planning Commission?
Thank you. The subject property is located within the Community Mixed Use 12 Future Land Use category. The site is in the urban service area, and it's also located within the limits of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. Future Land Use Element Policy 1.4 requires all new development be compatible with the surrounding area, noting that compatibility does not mean the same as, rather it refers to the sensitivity of development proposals in maintaining the character of existing development. The subject site currently has single-family uses, and there are also single-family uses to the north and east of the subject property. Directly south and west are light industrial uses, and light commercial uses are located to the north and south of the subject site. The proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area, as it is similar to the uses directly to the south and meets the intent of this policy direction. The proposal also meets the intent of Future Land Use Element Objective 16 and its accompanying policies that require new development be compatible with the surrounding area. Policy 16.2 states that gradual transitions of intensities between land uses shall be provided for as new development is proposed and approved through the use of professional site planning, buffering and screening techniques, and the control of specific land uses. The proposed setbacks and retention of the existing forestation will create a natural buffer to the single-family uses across Maple Lane. There are no goals or strategies outlined in the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan that apply to this request. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, and that's subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing Master?
The zoning hearing master considered the proposed rezoning of the subject property, which consists of two parcels with a total of approximately 2.97 acres located at 6022 and 6040 Maple Lane. The subject property is designated CMU 12 on the future land use map and zoned AS1. The applicant's request is to rezone the property to a planned development to allow two development options, including open storage of commercial and domestic vehicles as option 1, and a 21,000 square foot warehouse facility with or without distribution and open storage as an accessory use as option 2. The proposed PD will be required to operate in conjunction with the existing trucking operation on the adjacent property to the south. Pursuant to the Land Development Code, the ZHM evaluated the applicant's request for a plan development variation from LDC Section 6.06.06C to allow a 6-foot-high opaque wood or PVC fence and existing natural vegetation in lieu of Type C screening, which would be a masonry wall, and landscaping along the subject property's north boundary. The zoning hearing master found that these variation requests meet the requirements of the code. The zoning hearing master concluded with a recommendation of approval.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second, Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Next item.
Next item, agenda item F3, rezoning PD 24-1231. This is a request for a major, for PD for 17.74 acre parcel located on the west side of 50th Street, west of the intersection of Kirby Street and North 50th Street. The request is to allow for 164 townhomes. The main driving change in this request from a prior PD that was approved in this parcel was the addition of additional property along the southern boundary to provide for primary access to this parcel to Porpoise Drive through the existing single-family subdivision to the south. Staff felt that that additional access point and purchase the home and conversion to the primary access created a compatibility concerns and affecting the character of the single-family neighborhood. Therefore, we found the request not supportable. Planning Commission found the request consistent, and the hearing officer recommended approval. And we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, is the applicant here? Good morning, sir.
Morning, Commissioners. Jeremy Couch, 17937 Hunting Bow Circle with Tampa Civil. I have a short PowerPoint slide, if you can pull that on the screen. I'm also joined today by Mr. Vic Abilene. He's the property owner, and KB Homes, Andy Greenwood, is in the audience. This is an aerial view of the subject site. I'm going to talk to you a lot about the zoning history because it's lengthy. This property is located in Hillsborough County, right up against the city of Tampa. It has an amazing amount of frontage along the Hillsborough River. To the east are multifamily condos, and to the south are platted single-family homes. 2006, the property was approved for multifamily. It was kind of a barracks-style development, not attractive. Density at that point was 19.94 dwelling units per acre. There was extensive litigation on this project regarding the access from Kirby. The access from Kirby is very narrow. It's 30 feet wide, but ultimately this was approved. 2022, my client, Mr. Vic Abilene, purchased the property and requested a rezoning, did not increase density, kept multifamily, but expanded the multifamily across the site. So the multifamily from the first approval was limited to a very small portion of the site. On the east side, you can see to the west, those were 2 single-family homes. The 22-1338 approval, same density, spreaded it out across the property, still had the access from Kirby, which is the undesirable access because of how narrow it is, but then reduced the density to 11.79. Fast forward to this application today, the proposal is now platted townhomes, single-family attached. Additional land for a more standard access has been acquired and added to this application. So this is not a major modification because we're adding additional land in. It is a new zoning. The proposal would be for 164 townhomes and 1 single-family home to remain out on Kirby to the far east. The access from Porpoise Drive is significantly better than the access from Kirby. So here's kind of the summary of the request. You can see. Buffers and development standards. The PD will comply with, the project will comply with the Land Development Code for buffering. The proposal is 15-foot building separation, 50-foot setback to the Hillsborough River, 20-foot setback from the perimeter, and a maximum height now of 35 feet. The existing approval allows 55-foot high buildings next to these single-family homes. This is a single-family attached townhome project that's now proposed. The project will comply with all regulatory requirements. Here's kind of a quick list: SWIFMA permit, Hillsborough County permit, EPC will review, City of Tampa is the utility provider, they will review, and the FDEP will review utilities on behalf of the state. Planning Commission wrote a 3-ish page report with all of these objectives as being consistent. This is very consistent, very, very consistent. Planning Commission recommended consistent, Zoning Hearing Master recommended approvable, Transportation recommended supportable. As a matter of fact, there is an administrative variance just because of the separation from where the access to porpoise is, spacing to the adjacent driveways. So AV had to be requested. But I think everybody involved would agree that this access is much better than the apartments accessing from Kirby. And that's it. I have proposed, these conditions were submitted to the Zoning Hearing Master, recommended conditions of approval. I have 6 copies. And if you have traffic questions, Steve Henry is in the audience. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Any proponent testimony? Any opponent testimony? Planning Commission?
Thank you. The subject property is located in the residential 6 and the residential 20 future land use categories. The site is in the urban service area, and it's also located within the limits of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. The applicant is requesting to rezone the subject site to planned development for a multifamily residential development. The applicant is proposing to spread the density throughout the PD boundary for a density of approximately 10 dwelling units per gross acre over the entire project, which is consistent with the density expected when accounting for both land use categories. The proposed rezoning allows for a gradual transition and a spread of the density over a larger area per future land use element policy 8.8, which pertains to blending densities within a project. Future land use element objective 16 and its accompanying policies seek to protect existing neighborhoods and development by ensuring compatibility with the surrounding area through various techniques such as buffering and screening and other mitigation requirements. The proposed townhomes would be consistent with these policies as the use is similar and complementary to the surrounding single-family and multifamily uses. Policy 16.10 of the future land use element states that any density increase shall be compatible with the existing, proposed, or planned surrounding development. In this case, the scale of the development allowed by the residential 6 and residential 20 future land use categories in the urban service area have a higher density character. The proposed residential use would be compatible with the other residential uses in the surrounding area. The East Lake Orient Park Community Plan vision states the following: preserve existing single-family residential, and it says Res 6 in parentheses, and allow no further expansion of residential 20 in the area west of North 56th Street to the City of Tampa and north of Hannah Avenue to the City of Temple Terrace as indicated on the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan Preferred Elements Map. The previous plan development included an approved flex provision, which is proposed to be removed with this project. The removal of the approved flex of 1.21 acres in the residential 20 area located to the east allows the proposed development to meet the intent of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the proposed conditions. Thank you.
Hearing Master?
The zoning hearing master considered the proposed rezoning, which consists of approximately 17.74 acres situated west of the intersection of North 50th Street and East Kirby Street, south and east of the Hillsborough River. The zoning hearing master noted that the general area surrounding the property consists of a variety of residential uses, including single-family homes, condominiums, and multifamily apartments. Adjacent properties include a multifamily condominium development to the east, a single-family home residential subdivision to the south, a wetland area to the west, and the river to the west and north. The zoning hearing master stated that the property's existing PD 22 1338 zoning allows up to 204 multifamily units and 2 detached single-family homes. The applicant's request is to rezone the property to a new PD to allow for up to 164 townhome units and 1 detached single-family home. The proposed rezoning will eliminate the flex provision and result in a density of approximately 9.3 dwelling units per acre. The proposed rezoning will allow a maximum height of 35 feet, and the proposed plan will comply with LDC buffering and screening requirements without variation. The proposed rezoning will include folio parcel located on Porpoise Drive to provide an approximately 65-foot wide access point on Porpoise Drive. The proposed rezoning provides the 30-foot wide, 1,500-foot long Kirby Street driveway as an emergency access point. The Development Services Department staff found that the proposed rezoning would be compatible with the surrounding zoning pattern and existing development that in the area if the development were to use the access on East Kirby Street that was approved in PD 22-1338. Staff found that the proposed access on Porpoise Drive would have an adverse impact on the residential subdivision to the south of the subject property. Development Services staff found that replacing the existing single-family home with an entrance to the proposed townhome community would alter the visual continuity of the long-established neighborhood. Staff found the proposed access on Porpoise Drive would render the development incompatible with the existing development pattern in the area, and concluded that the application is not supportable. The zoning hearing master noted that transportation review staff stated no objections subject to the conditions stated in the agency review sheet. The zoning hearing master concluded with the recommendation of approval.
Commissioner Cohen?
So I just want to understand, and perhaps Adam, just help me with this. If this is not approved, the entrance on Kirby is still approved with the old PD, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, so, I mean, this is sort of similar to the one that we looked at earlier today in that you have, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from a situation that has something already allowed, which is significantly more intensive than what is being proposed. Now, in terms of the entrance, look, I don't think the entrance on Porpoise Drive is ideal, but the Kirby entrance is terrible. I mean, I'm thinking back to what Commissioner Bowles said earlier about an emergency truck trying to get down that street, and that, to me, is that gives me grave concern. So, you know, I would be inclined to support this because I think that it's a great improvement over what we have there. I can understand the staff objections, but we're not starting from scratch. And this development has to have access to its property somewhere. And the Kirby entrance, to me, is very, very unworkable.
Commissioner Cameron Spada?
Yes, it does have the reduced density, it's safer access, and also the project is compliant and consistent with the comprehensive plan, and I will definitely support the applicant on this.
All right, can we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Motion, Commissioner Wilstel, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on F3.
Motion carries 6-1. Commissioner Hagan voted no.
Okay, next item.
Next item is F4, rezoning PD 25-0333. This is a request for a rezoning to PD for a parcel that's located in the northwest corner of Mary Lou Drive and Simmons Loop. The request is to rezone to PD for a 40-bed nursing and convalescent facility consisting of 42,362 square feet. Staff is recommending approval. Planning Commission found it consistent, and the hearing officer also recommended approval, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, applicant, come forward.
Good morning, Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward, and Henderson, representing Ryan Companies. We have a separate PowerPoint, but I don't think it's necessary. This is pretty straightforward. We're requesting a unique rehabilitative use down on Simmons Loop near the hospital. It's a facility where people would go to take occupational therapy or physical therapy in between their hospital stay and home. We would otherwise be on consent, except for that we had a neighbor come and ask the zoning hearing master to consider making his property commercial too. So we're here to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you. Any proponent testimony? Any opponent testimony? Planning Commission?
Thank you. The subject property is located within the suburban mixed-use 6 future land use category. The site is in the urban service area, and it's also located within the limits of the Riverview Community Plan as well as the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. According to Future Land Use Section Objective 4.6, residential support uses are allowed within residential neighborhoods to directly serve the population. These uses must be located and designed in a manner to be compatible with the surrounding residential development pattern. Furthermore, Future Land Use Section Policy 4.6.1 outlines that residential support uses such as child care centers, adult daycare centers, and churches are an allowable land use in any of the residential, commercial, and industrial future land use categories, so long as the facility is of a design, intensity, and scale to serve the surrounding neighborhood in which it occurs. In this case, the applicant is proposing a planned development with a 40-bed maximum nursing, convalescent, and extended care facility. The proposed density and intensity are within the maximum that may be considered in the future land use category of SMU 6, and therefore this is in a scale with the surrounding neighborhood. The proposal is consistent with the policy direction under this objective. The subject property is within the limits of the Riverview Community Plan, and Goal 1 of that plan seeks to achieve better designs and densities that are compatible with Riverview's vision. One of the visions in the plan is to promote diversity in housing types and styles to counter generic subdivision looks. The proposed plan development meets the intent of this policy direction as outlined in the community plan by providing a variety of uses and also serving the neighborhood population. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Thank you, Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the proposed rezoning of property consisting of 3 folios located on Simmons Loop and Mary Lou Drive and totaling 3.97 acres. The zoning hearing master noted that the applicant's request is to rezone to a PD to allow a nursing, convalescent, extended care facility with up to 40 beds. The area surrounding the property consists of residential, single-family, and mobile home uses, agricultural uses, and a hospital. Adjacent properties include a hospital across Simmons Loop to the east, residential single-family and mobile home uses across Mary Lou Drive to the south, mobile home and ag use to the west, and single-family uses to the north. The zoning hearing master noted that the Development Services Department staff found the proposed PD compatible with the existing zoning and development pattern in the area and concluded that the proposed PD is approvable with conditions. Additionally, transportation review staff stated no objections subject to the conditions. The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request for a PD variation from Section 6.06.06 of the LDC to eliminate the screening requirement along the property's north boundary and a portion of the west boundary as shown on the site plan. The zoning hearing master found that the variation request meets the requirements of the LDC, and the zoning hearing master concluded with a recommendation of approval.
All right, can we have a motion? Motion,
Second.
Commissioner Wollstall, second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on F4.
Motion carries 7-0.
F5.
Commissioners, the next item is F5, application number RZPD 25-0460. This is a request to rezone a 8.59 acre parcel that's located southeast corner of North 20th Street and East 131st Avenue from RMC 16 and PD to a PD. for 62 multifamily units. Both the current PD and the RMC 16 zoning permits multifamily uses. The only significant change then would be the fact that under the current PD has an age restriction, which is being removed as part of this new PD. Staff is recommending approval. Planning Commission found it consistent, and the hearing officer also is recommending approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Applicant here.
Cami Corbett with the law firm of Hillward and Henderson. This is a very straightforward request. Really, all we're doing is removing the request to, or the prior restriction on 55 and older. This property is located in the university area, and so that is a significant restriction on the ability to utilize this property, and we would respectfully request your approval.
All right, thank you. Any proponent testimony? Any opponent testimony? Planning Commission?
Thank you. The subject property is located in the residential 20 future land use category. The site is in the urban service area, and the subject property is located within the limits of the university area community plan. The proposal meets the intent of future land use section objective 4.4 and its accompanying policies that require new development be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. In this case, the surrounding land use pattern is comprised mostly of multifamily development with a mix of public and quasi-public, as well as two-family uses in the immediate vicinity. The proposed rezoning with multifamily development will reflect the existing density and residential character of the area, as well as an appropriate transition of use. Additionally, the subject site is located in close proximity to the University of South Florida and the University Mall area, a location where there is significant demand for additional residential homes. The University Area Community Plan strives to create a stable, safe, and livable community through physical revitalization, which establishes positive neighborhood identity and provides community design guidelines to achieve a pedestrian-friendly, mixed-use area that will serve the needs of the university area community. Goal 2 of the plan outlines the desire to provide greater flexibility in land use and density for future development while ensuring that neighborhood buffers and urban amenities are enhanced. The proposed plan development aligns well with the community plan vision. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the proposed rezoning of the subject property, which consists of multiple folios with a total of approximately 8.59 acres located on the east side of North 20th Street at the East 131st Avenue and North 20th Street intersection. The applicant's request is to rezone the property to a planned development with 62 units to include an adjoining RMC 16 zoned area to the south of the PD boundary of PD 2174, and to remove the age restriction condition of PD 2174. The general area surrounding the property consists of multifamily residential developments and office and commercial uses. Adjacent properties include a church and multifamily to the east, and multifamily further east across North 20th Street, unimproved land to the south, multifamily duplex, single family, and unimproved land in a county-owned retention area to the west, and multifamily to the north. The zoning hearing master noted that Development Services staff found the demand for housing stock is high in the university community area, and the existing age restriction of PD 2174 hinders the ability to repurpose the property for a use that is needed. Staff found the proposed PD variations to be justified and concluded that the PD rezoning is approvable. The zoning hearing master concluded with a recommendation of approval.
And what's the pleasure of the board?
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Wostel, second, Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Next item.
Commissioners, next item is agenda item F6, major mod application 25-0479. This is a request to rezone a 474.1 acre parcel located on the south side of 672, southwest of the corner of Sweet Loop Road and 672. The purpose of this request is to increase entitlements associated with the UF IFAS Extension Research Facility on the property. increasing office and laboratory uses to 219,117 square feet, and increasing agricultural field support facilities to 322,362 square feet, and increasing the number of dormitories from 2 to 7, and total number of students from 16 to 64. Staff is recommending approval. Planning Commission found it consistent, and the hearing officer also recommended approval, and I believe the applicant's online virtually.
Okay. The applicant online?
Yes, I am.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Mr. Chair.
Would you like to add anything?
No, sir, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, we appreciate your brevity. Anyone here in support want to speak to the item? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you. The subject property is located within the agricultural rural 1 to 5 future land use category. The site is in the rural area, and the subject property is located within the limits of the Balm Community Plan as well as the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. According to Objective 1.2 of the Future Land Use section, the rural area is established to designate on the future land use map the location for areas for long-term agricultural uses and large lot, low-density rural residential uses, which can exist without the threat of urban or suburban encroachment. Agricultural uses extend to the south, east, and west of the subject site, and public, quasi-public, institutional, and multifamily uses are north of the subject property. Single family is located along the north, south, and west, and further east down along County Road 672. The proposed modification meets the intent of this objective as it is compatible with the surrounding area. Future Land Use Section Objective 5.1 notes that in recognition of the importance of agricultural as an industry and valuable economic resource, agricultural uses shall be promoted within the county. This request is similar in nature to the surrounding development and would allow for the continuation of agricultural uses, and therefore this is consistent with the policy direction. Goal 3 of the Balm Community Plan strives for Balm residents, business stakeholders, and landowners to strongly support the viability and profitability of agricultural businesses in order to provide a strong, diversified economic base for the community. The plan recommends the community to protect agricultural uses in the area, and this request is consistent with that vision. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the proposed modification of the property, which consists of 2 folio parcels with a total of approximately 474 acres. The subject property is owned by the University of Florida and is operated as the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, UF-IFAS Gulf Coast Research and Education Center. The property is improved with several buildings and structures that are used in the agricultural research and education operation. The property's existing plan development zoning allows 41,758 square feet of office and laboratory uses, approximately 118,000 square feet of agricultural field support facilities, and 2 dormitory structures for student residents. The area surrounding the property was noted to consist of primarily agricultural and single-family home uses. The applicant's request is for a major modification to increase the non-residential research area and add dormitory units for graduate students conducting research and living on site during their coursework. The applicant is proposing a maximum of 7 dormitory structures to house 64 student residents. About 219,117 square feet of office and laboratory space and 322,362 square feet of agricultural field support facilities. Development Services Department staff noted that the applicant has not sought any plan development variations. Development Services Department staff found that the proposed major modification is compatible with the surrounding properties and in keeping with the general development pattern of the area. Staff concluded that the proposed PD is approvable with conditions based on the applicant's site plan. Additionally, Transportation Review staff stated no objections. The zoning hearing master concluded with a recommendation of approval.
Can we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Motion, Commissioner Miller, second, Commissioner Wolstel. Please record your vote on F6.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Last F item.
Commissioners, last item is agenda item F7, rezoning standard 25-0514. The request is to rezone a 1.93 acre parcel that's located on the east side of US 301 from AS 04 to CG with the restrictions limiting certain uses to an FAR of 0.25 to be consistent with the SMU 6 comprehensive plan policies associated with the property. Staff did find this compatible with surrounding area and is recommending approval. Planning Commission found it consistent with the plan, and the hearing officer also recommended approval.
All right, is the applicant here?
Commissioner, we reached out to the applicant and advised them to be here, but it does not appear that they are here in the room, or we checked out in the lobby, and the applicant does not appear to be here unless they are online.
Okay, I have one question. Why wouldn't this have been on consent?
The reason it wasn't is because 301 and adjacent to the site is a failing roadway. So since it's located on a failing road, it's on the regular agenda.
Okay, but there's no there's no opposition?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, what's the pleasure of the board? I mean, we can continue it, or?
I'll move approval.
Okay, I don't see any reason why we can't support it.
Second.
Get a motion to approve, Commissioner Wilstel, second, Commissioner Myers for F7. Please record your vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Next item.
Commissioners, next item is the staff items. First item is I1. This is the monthly staff status report on Live Local Act development projects. Since the last month's status report, we did have one additional application submitted. I would note that this was a previously approved zoning verification for a parcel located within planned development. That subsequent the board's actions which removed planned developments from eligibility. It was no longer part of the list, but with the recent changes in state statutes preempting that restriction on planned developments being eligible, the applicant has restarted that project, and therefore we've reissued the zoning verification letter noting that change and that it is eligible for consideration of Live Local. And that's the only project, and no other changes at the report.
Okay, Commissioner Wilstel?
Oh, sorry. I'm for section K.
Oh, okay. All right, can we have a motion just accepting the report?
Move to receive.
Motion, Commissioner Wilstel, second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, last item.
Commissioners, the last item is item I2. This is a request for the board to approve a resolution to designate the Development Services Department Director as the administrative authority to sign plats, approved plats. This is a requirement. There's a new statutory change this session, 177.071 Florida statutes, precludes the Board of County Commissioners from approving plats. Previously, these were in the board's purview to approve by state law. The state law has changed now and requires a designation of an administrative authority to approve plats. What we're proposing would not change any of the review processes, wouldn't change any of the substantive requirements, and would propose to still have elements of the plat come to the board, and specifically that is dedications of interests that are done by plats. These might be roads, drainage easements, infrastructure, as well as warranty bonds and performance bonds for construction of those. We would still bring those to the board and ask the board to authorize the acceptance of those dedications, which would then become county assets. The difference would be that the board would not be accepting the plat, and then rather than the chair signing the plat after acceptance, if this is approved, the Development Services Department Director would sign the plat for approval. I'm available for any questions.
Okay. If I don't see anyone in the queue, can we have a motion designated the Director of Services as the administrative authority for plat approvals? Okay, the motion is Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote on I2.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, so before we adjourn the land use meeting, Commissioner Wilstel, did you have an off-agenda item?
Yes, just a brief conversation to see if there's at least 4 of us that are interested in this. I've received a couple of requests to change what is currently known as the South Shore Area System-Wide Plan. It's a really long name for South Hillsborough, but it's created a lot of confusion in some of these rezonings and expansions of the urban service area that we've dealt with some of the residents, where they simply just see themselves in some big conglomerate living South Shore plan, when really there's a lot of different plans. This was supposed to be for like a larger planning tool. I'm getting some head nods there. So the request, if there's 4 of us, if not, I don't care, to simply change the name from South Shore to South Hillsborough County, to clearly identify that area in our comprehensive plan amendment, rather than the very confusing South Shore Area Systems-Wide Plan, which was done as a branding effort a long time ago. Is anybody, I've got some head nods. Okay, it looks like I have 4. So I will motion to direct the Planning Commission and staff to begin the process to change the name from the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan to the South Hillsborough County Plan within the Comprehensive Plan Amendment. Okay.
I got a motion, Commissioner Waltz, second Commissioner Miller. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda?
Yes, I've been receiving the same emails and definitely agree, and it definitely makes sense to change it to this, for sure.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, so this time we'll adjourn the land use meeting and commence Land Development Code Amendment public hearing. Welcome to the first of 2 public hearings on proposed amendments to the county's Land Development Code. The board will vote on these proposed amendments following a second public hearing scheduled for August 12th. Development Services will now introduce today's, I guess we only have 1 item. So, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Israel Monsanto, Development Services. This is text amendment LDC 250957, subdivision of parcel on septic tank in the urban service area. This amendment will revise the requirements for sanitary sewer connection for development in the urban service area in our county. This will allow the subdivision of a parcel of land for residential use into up to 3 parcels or non-residential development with an equivalent wastewater flow to be served by septic systems, provided connection to a wastewater line is not technically feasible. It also will remove the requirement to obtain a variance for a residential subdivision, creating a 3rd lot or non-residential development with an equivalent water flow. And this concludes this presentation, and staff is available if you have any questions.
Yeah, it's public. Would anyone like to speak to this item? Okay, we don't have any vote today. It'll be on the second public hearing on August 12th. So I don't see anyone else in the queue, so we're adjourned.